Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan, Nocturne Knives. I've got an interesting video for you today, four-way comparison between these different bugouts. So I have these in for sharpening along with a bunch of other knives. You can check out the unboxing video for all those linked up in the top right. Thank you, Joseph, much appreciated. But he sent me along four bugouts in four interesting and different variations for sharpening, so I just want to make this video, kind of talk about and compare all these different versions, because they're each interesting and different in their own way. So with that said, let's get into it. The first variation I have is this one with some aftermarket copper shipwrecked scales. It's got an S30V blade coated black, this sweet like gold shiny hardware, and then the real interesting piece of this are these aftermarket scales. I don't know who they're made by, but they feel pretty nice, solid copper, and they've got this cool shipwrecked finish on them. The second version I have is this Blade HQ exclusive in gray G10 handles with this kind of diamond texturing pattern thing. Got green thumb studs, a black coated 20CV blade, and then green standoffs. Very nice, feels good. It's got the G10, which is different from the standard Grivery or whatever Benchmade calls their standard plastic handles. The next version I have is this special M390 and machined aluminum version. This one has black blade, red thumb stud standoffs, and then this sweet machined aluminum handle. And lastly, I have this version with carbon fiber handle and S90V blade. It's got blue backspacer, thumb studs, and then yeah, this sweet carbon fiber and the nice S90V in a pretty stonewash finish. So those are the four knives that I'll be comparing. First, I want to talk real quick about the Bugout platform in general, and then we'll get on to the comparisons and all that kind of stuff. So the standard Bugout for me is just a very kind of uninteresting knife. I really don't like plastic handles very much, and the whole shape of the Bugout just really isn't super interesting. The materials, it's not really my jam, so I was never really interested in it. But the Bugout has so many nice and cool variations like this S90V and carbon fiber one, and these carbon fiber handles, they maintain that really light weight, but they're really stiff. There's very little flex in here. It's really stiff. The carbon fiber feels nice, and with this upgraded S90V blade, definitely makes the Bugout a lot more interesting. And that's kind of the story of the Bugout for me, is a super boring knife that I really probably would never pick up until you start getting into these more interesting and special versions. Like for example, the Blade HQ with the G10 and the 20CV, that's such a more interesting knife than the plastic handles and S30V. Again, with the G10, you have almost no flex, even though the liners are very partial in there. Not sure if you're going to be able to really see it, but the liners are quite short. They stop about right here, and it's just a skinny little piece of metal that ends right here. The rest of this is G10, but it feels very stiff, very strong. Much better in hand, much nicer feeling than the plastic handles. And then you have something like this with the nice aluminum, and then this is really where the stiffness is taken up a notch. No flex, feels really stiff, but still with the aluminum, it's got really nice balance. So these different versions definitely elevate the Bugout a lot for me, from a very uninteresting knife that I would really never pick up to something I would actually strongly consider. Now I'll get a few measurements of these. So we'll do this on the S90V carbon fiber. Look at blade stock thickness first, coming in about 0.09, which is a really nice stock thickness. I'm gonna make it really slicey. And then we'll get that behind the edge thickness. So we're looking at about 23 thousandths, which is not too bad. It's a little thicker, I'd say, than it really needs to be. Maybe 21 thousandths. A little thicker than I'd say it needs to be, but really not bad at all, especially with the thin blade stock. And then check handle thickness on this carbon fiber, looking at 0.41, so under half an inch thickness. That's pretty nice. I'll go ahead and measure it on this aluminum, coming in about the same. The different one here is going to be this copper. Oh, it's actually, no, it's actually almost exactly the same. I was wrong. Okay, cool. I'll also check if there's any variance in the behind the edge thickness. Okay, so this M391 is actually a couple thousandths thicker, coming in at 19, 20CV 18.5, and the S30V coming in at just over 20 thousandths. So there is some slight variance with the S90V being thicker just by a thousandth or two. Get some of these out of the way. We'll look at overall length. Use the Blade HQ version. So each one of these squares is 1/2 inch. We're looking at about 7.5 overall, with just about a 3¼ inch blade, looking at right on 3-inch cutting edge. I'll get a couple knives out here for size comparison. We'll start it off with the Victorinox Pioneer and Cadet. Line them up right on this line with the pivots, and we'll use this M390 version. Put them on the pivots. And that's the kind of size we're looking at. The camera is at a slight angle, so the Pioneer is going to look a little extra small. Next, we'll go with the classic combo Para 3 and PM2 lined up on the pivots. And you're looking at right around Para 3 size for the Bugout. They're very, very close in size. It's definitely significantly smaller than like the PM2. Right around Para 3 size. The difference is going to come, say, in width in the pocket, so it's going to be a lot narrower here. The thickness is going to be a bit less, and definitely the stock thickness is a big difference here. Put it up next to a Protec Malibu. That's a pretty solid comparison. It's right here in line with the Malibu. Here's a Spyderco Delica. Right around Delica size, you're getting a decent bit more cutting edge and blade length, but handle size is pretty similar. Here's a QSP Penguin, coming in quite close to the Penguin. Going to be just slightly longer, a little bit more cutting edge out of the Bugout. Here's another kind of slicey EDC staple, TRM Atom. Unfortunately, I don't have a Neutron, which would be very comparable to this, but the Atom isn't too far off blade length. Coming in maybe 1/3 of an inch longer. These have almost identical blade stock though. Here's a Sharp by Design Mini Tempest. These knives really are not similar in the slightest. They're in the same general size range, but quite different otherwise. It's a Hinder XM18, definitely a lot thicker, a lot bigger than the Bugout. You can see thickness. Bugout's really dwarfed by the XM18. And that seems like a good range of size comparisons. And now I'll do some direct comparisons between all of these. So let's get a little weight, see the weight differences. I'll do the G10 version first, coming in at 2.2 ounces, which is such a nice weight for a knife that's this big, well under the ounce and inch kind of metric. Now I'll do the carbon fiber, coming in about 0.2 ounces lighter, very nice. Get the M390 version, okay, 2.5, so 0.3 ounces more than the G10, 1/2 ounce more than the carbon fiber. And now the chunky one, got the copper handle coming in at 4.3, so versus what's fairly close to stock at the G10, looking at 2 ounces more to go from G10 to copper, which seems about right. Okay, I'll talk about some of my general likes and dislikes with the Bugout platform, and then I'll touch on kind of which one of these is my favorite, which one I like the most, and why. So in general, I actually do like, I'm starting to like the Bugout quite a lot. It's got kind of a boring, bit of an uninteresting shape, but it works really, really well. Like the ergonomics are quite good. The handle is pretty narrow. It's not got a lot going on, but that means it has really neutral ergonomics. So they're going to work in a wide variety of grips for a lot of different hand sizes. You can see it's just got kind of vague mentions of where your fingers should go in between these points, a gentle swell in the middle. So you can kind of really adjust around here. Your fingers can spread or compress as they need to. In a saber grip, really nice. Hammer grip, feels good. The pocket clip, I'm not getting much action off of that. The end of it kind of sits just past my hand. If you have really big hands, you might find yourself running off of the back a little bit, but even then, it's not so bad. You've kind of got this flat spot to purchase on, and then even if you're back here, there's a nice flat that you could butt your finger up against. Pinch grip is super nice. It doesn't have any really aggressive jimping or sharp edges. It's just kind of a good neutral handle. So very nice ergonomics. The real I don't know, selling point of the Bugout, I think for a lot of people, is going to be the weight, which undoubtedly this thing is a lightweight superstar. The base version is coming in at like 1.8 ounces, I think, and then even upgrading to something like this G10 or this aluminum with the M390, you're only looking at 2.5 ounces, which for a 3¼ inch blade is going to be a really nice ratio. So in terms of carrying it every day, whatever kind of shorts or pants you want, this is going to be a great option. Another thing I really like about the knife is the blade. So a really neutral blade shape. It's got a lot of flat, a little bit of belly, fairly low kind of neutral tip with the spear point, thinly enough ground, especially with the thin blade stock, that it's going to cut really nicely. And the blade is just a performer. You can tell that it's made to work. It's made to cut things. Not going to be a hard use blade by any stretch of the imagination, but for most people, normal cutting, the blade is going to serve you quite well. Those are the things I like, I appreciate about the Bugout. I do have some dislikes. Really, most of them kind of apply to the stock version, and really my main one is the plastic handles. I'm just not big on plastic handles. The only plasticky handled knife that I really have and use is this Spyderco Delica, and this one doesn't get carried all that often. It's kind of it's been modded a lot, experimented on, so it's kind of a borderline beater, super user, stuff like that. And as a real just utility knife like this, a plastic handle, okay, sure, but one that I really like and enjoy, plastic handles just are not going to be my jam at all. So the stock Bugout has really never been interesting or very appealing to me for that reason. Other than that, it's really a solid platform. It's just with the plastic handles, I'm not into it. So you start upgrading to stuff like this in the carbon fiber, aluminum, G10, the knife gets much, much more interesting to me. Another kind of general dislike is going to be Benchmade's quality control. In general, like their sharpening often comes super uneven. The action on their knives, centering, all that stuff, a lot of times is just really, really inconsistent. All of these are actually pretty good. This one, not sure if you'll be able to see, centering pretty positive there. Same thing here. It's a bit off to the show side on this one, but it's not rubbing. And on this copper one, it is dead centered. So that's pretty nice. And they all came with what looked like decent edge bevels. They weren't crazy inconsistent. They didn't look like they'd had a bunch of metal chewed away or anything like that. So that was good to see. Maybe Benchmade is stepping it up in their sharpening, quality control department, that kind of stuff. But that's really always a thing that's plagued Benchmade, at least in recent years. So my advice, if you're looking for a Bugout, would be to go and get it in person if at all possible, just to avoid as many of those quality control issues as you possibly can. Between these four, and I like them all kind of in different ways. This G10, the G10 feels really good. It's nice and smooth. I like this subtle diamondy texture on it. It looks good, feels nice. I don't really like the green though on the standoffs and the thumb studs. Not really into that. I don't know why they went with this weird limey green. It's kind of an odd color. I like the handles on that, but I don't know about the color scheme. This carbon fiber, I really like the weight, and carbon fiber is always cool, although it definitely doesn't feel quite as nice as this G10. The G10 is a little bit smoother, and I appreciate that. I much prefer the color scheme on this one with the nice blue backspacer, blue thumb studs. Definitely looks way nicer. The blue kind of doesn't totally match between the thumb stud and the backspacer, but they're far enough apart that it isn't a huge issue, and I like the blue enough, so I can kind of forgive that. I really like this version with the machined aluminum. I wasn't sure how the aluminum would look or feel in person, but it feels really close to titanium and looks a lot like titanium. I think it's a good compromise of a lot of structural integrity and stiffness, but you're still saving a lot of weight, because that is kind of the point of the Bugout. The red standoffs and thumb studs, I don't know quite how I feel about those. Red is a little bit of an iffy color for me. I'm not too into it. It's not like my favorite of colors on a knife. So I think this might look really cool just with plain silver or blue. would probably look cooler on this, in my opinion. And then kind of the black sheep of the group is this one with the copper scales. It's probably the most interesting out of all of them, just with the copper. It totally changes the knife. It makes it feel way different. You can see the balance point is shifted back to about the 2/3 mark of the handle versus on something like this G10, where it's right up here where your pointer finger is going to go. So it makes the knife feel a lot different. It feels much chunkier, although even with the full copper handles, it's only coming in at 4.5 ounces, which is not an unreasonable weight at all. So actually on this knife with thinness, and these things are, probably won't be able to see, but they're actually quite well milled out on the inside, a lot of weight relief pockets. So whoever the maker is on this has made a good attempt to keep the weight down quite a lot. Like the pockets are quite large and extensive. I do like this more than I thought I would. It's got a really nice heft. It feels really solid with the copper, and the shipwrecked effect looks really cool on this with the black blade and the gold hardware. Big pirate vibes on this. I'm actually really into it. I like this a lot. Out of the four, I think my favorite has got to be this one though, with the aluminum M390. It's also got the best action by far on these. You pull the lock and the blade just drifts closed. Barely any play, just a tiny bit of play. You kind of have to really give it a wiggle to feel the play. So this one's got the best action, solid centering, and these aluminum handles feel really nice. The only thing I might change is to get some new thumb studs and back spacers, or switch them with one of these. That's a change I might make, but otherwise, I really, really like this version. And if I were going to pick one up, there's a decent chance it would be this one. It'd probably be this one or this S90V carbon fiber, just because S90V is kind of fun, a little more interesting of a blade steel. Drop a comment down below. I would love to know which one of these is your favorite and why you would pick that one up. Or if you own one of these, which one do you own and why'd you pick that one? Okay, that is the video. That's everything I kind of wanted to say about these knives. Definitely an interesting group of bugouts. They're all kind of unique and interesting in their own way. I do really like them all, especially over the stock version of the Bugout. If you're looking to pick up a Bugout, I would recommend any of these. I like them all for different reasons. It's going to come down to personal preference, exactly which one you would pick up, but I think they're all great picks. And these are all actually pretty well made, decent sharpening, centering, all that kind of stuff. So Benchmade did decent quality control on all these. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, don't forget to go down, hit the like button, subscribe button. It will definitely help me out. I'd really appreciate it. Drop a comment. Let me know which one of these is your favorite. I would love to hear it. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.